Good evening. I hereby call to order the June 28th, 2023 meeting of the Gaithersburg Historic District Commission. For our roll call, please answer present when I call your name. Planner 2, Chris Berger.
Present.
Is Greg here?
He is
not. No? Okay. Deputy City Attorney Frank Johnson.
Present.
All right. Commissioner Mike Feinstein.
Present.
Commissioner Rudy Morgan.
Present.
I believe alternate Commissioner Kathleen Ramirez will be arriving.
I hope so, yes.
Okay, very good. And then Commissioner and Vice Chairman John Rowdy.
Present.
And myself, Commissioner, and Chairman Dean Ventolo says present. We do have a quorum, and if Ms. Ramirez does show up, she'll be a full commissioner tonight. Next is our preliminary statement, which is as follows. This commission is empowered to meet and act under Article 12 of the City Code of Gaithersburg. The technical qualifications of the staff of this commission and the members of this commission are on file with the City of Gaithersburg, are available on request to any applicant, and are hereby made a part of the legal record of each and every application heard tonight. Each application heard tonight is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing precedent for any other application. Any member from the public who wishes to speak on one of tonight's applications will be given 3 minutes to address the HDC from the podium at the reserved time. But we ask that you refrain from speaking out from the audience and that you take your private conversations outside the council chambers. Okay, does any commissioner have any conflicts of interest for any application being heard tonight?
No.
Nope.
No? Okay, very good. Next then, we have one set of minutes needing approval, which is from our May 24th, 2023 meeting. Does any commissioner want to see any corrections made to them?
No.
Okay, then I make a motion to adopt the minutes as written. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, very good. And then for our vote, say aye if you support adopting the minutes, nay if you don't, abstain if you wish. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? No? Okay, very good. So it passes 4-0. It's adopted. Next, we have the Historic Area Work Permit application, which is HIST 9595-2023, which is new owners seek to remove sections of a 3-foot fence in the front and set back a section of the 6-foot tall fence in the rear yard at 605 Steinbeck Avenue in the MXD Mixed Use Development Zone. May we have an introduction from staff, please?
Yes, the application comes before the HDC in accordance with Section 24-227A of the City Code. The subject property is individually designated as the England Crown Farm. To refresh your memory, the HDC approved HIST 9232-2022 for the 3-foot tall picket fence in the front yard at the March 23rd, 2022 meeting. That is the area in yellow you see here. And HIST 9246-2022 for the 6-foot tall rear yard fence at the April 17th meeting. That is in purple on the graphic you see on the screen. The new owners propose to remove much of the 3-foot tall fence in the front yard and adjust the location of the 6-foot tall fence behind 485 Sauk Circle. So I'll go back to our previous. You can see how the fence, and I have photos that'll illustrate this as well. You can see how the fence behind Sauk Circle goes along the fence line and gets pretty close to the house. And of course, the fence, the 3-foot tall fence, is in the front yard, completely in the front yard. And then they're going to remove much of it, save for this section right here, which borders the city property. And then this section over here will be adjusted, the boundary will be adjusted to move it away farther from 485 Sauk Circle. And here's some photos of that fence right now in the front yard, the 3-foot tall section. Here it is over in the side yard. So all this will be removed all the way until over here along the city-owned section. And then here's the section that will be adjusted here. You can see it forms sort of a triangle around the edges of the yard. That'll all be removed. And staff notes that per the approved HOPS in 2022, the fence was to be painted within 2 years of approval. So even though the fencing was installed by a previous owner, it is now the responsibility of the new owners to finalize those HOPS and paint those fences. For the front yard fence, it must be painted by March 23rd, 2024, and then the rear yard fence must be painted by April 27th, 2024. So joining us tonight, we have the new property owners, Lisa and Charlie Scott. If you'd like to sit at the table and add anything else you would like.
Welcome to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you again for the record, Charlie Scott.
Lisa Scott.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for that explanation. Also, Chris has been very helpful as we were even potentially putting an offer on the house, confirming what our responsibilities would be as the new owners. So definitely appreciate Chris's help during that process, and then also with this application. But again, he's described what we want to do. We do see some value in having the fence, especially along the city park, as that area gets activated. We think it'll be beneficial to help people understand, what is public property for public enjoyment, and what is our property, especially as you get towards the back of the house and there's some outbuildings, and it's not really. We're actually very close to the garage, on the back border of the fence. So anyway, so we do want to keep that portion of the fence, but we don't really see the value of much of the 3-foot fence, and even as owners for just a short bit, we realized that the front left part of the house is basically landlocked from even getting a lawnmower in there. So anyway, so from a maintenance standpoint, we realized that removing the fence will make it easier for us to be good owners of the home. So, you want to add anything?
Sounds good.
Well, wonderful. That is wonderful to hear. Okay, next then, the public is now invited to speak. In-person participants, please line up at the podium to be sworn in. For those wanting to speak remotely by Zoom, tech team, please play the video.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Okay, I see no one lining up at the podium ready to give their comments pro or con. And do we have anybody from Zoom? Okay, very good
No
then.
one
All
has
right.
their hand raised.
If somebody does come in beforehand, then please let us know. Maybe we'll let them chime in.
Okay.
All right, let's hear from the commissioners. Commissioner Feinstein, you're up first.
I think it makes a lot of sense what you're planning to do, and I'm sure your neighbors are happy. So welcome to the neighborhood. Hope you enjoy the house.
Thank you.
We actually already have lived in the neighborhood, so we were just 100 yards away.
Oh, okay.
So we were familiar with the saga that transpired.
The saga, that's well said. That's very kind, too. I'll say. Okay, very good. Commissioner Morgan.
I don't have any comment. I commend you on purchasing a property and removing 3 feet fence in the front because I think the maintenance, cutting the grass, mowing the lawn, make it much easier. And I think the neighbor contention at the time we approved this was that they didn't even want the 3-foot fence in the front. So by removing it, you have become a good neighbor. So I commend you on that. I don't have any further comment or question.
All well
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Roddy.
I also agree with my two compadres. I have no comments other than to say welcome.
Thank you.
I as well, welcome to this wonderful, beautiful home. And I think that many people will be pleased that the fence in the front is no longer to be there. I know your immediate neighbors are really going to be happy. They were in shock, I think, when the fence went up, or actually when it was proposed. I think they didn't realize the vista that they would have after that. But anyway, okay, so then we don't have to do an open forum for commissioners. Let's just go ahead right to the vote. And so for your vote, aye if you approve this application, nay if you don't, abstain if you wish. Commissioner Feinstein?
Do we want to make the motion or?
Yeah,
Oh,
you do need a
okay,
motion.
so thank you so much. No, thank you so much. Please do, thank you.
Okay, I move that the Historic District Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report findings and recommendations, approve HIST-9595-2023 with the condition that the fence will be painted within those timeframes outlined by Commissioner Chris Berg.
Very good. Now,
I second it.
Very good. All right, now we can go to the vote. So thank you very much. All right, so Commissioner Feinstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Roddy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Ventolo says aye. That passes 4-0. Congratulations to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next then is discussion topics, which is potential properties to petition for designation. May we have an introduction from staff, please?
Yes, so if you recall last month, we reviewed the former Bowman Mill, the Granary Row, at 317 East Diamond Avenue as a potential property to designate either as part of a district with other mill buildings in Old Town or individually. And I think the general consensus of the commission was that it was eligible for both. It definitely was eligible to be designated as part of a potential thematic district of mill buildings in Old Town, but also had merits individually despite the changes. So tonight we are going to look at the next former mill building along East Diamond Avenue, and that is at 503 East Diamond Avenue. This is a storage facility. As you can see, the railroad tracks. Here's East Diamond Avenue, so the road kind of bends down here, heading towards Washington Grove. And here's a pictometry aerial view, so you can see this is the building we're going to focus on. These buildings are on the property. They were built in the early 2000s, as you'll find out more details in a few moments. And here's a rear view. Here's the railroad tracks here on East Diamond Avenue, and this is our subject building here. Here's some photos of it, how it looks today. Pretty simple in design. And here's the view along the railroad tracks. There used to be a siding track that would branch off here, and so goods could be loaded and unloaded here. And here's a view of one of the dormers. And here's a timeline. So 1912, Herbert Bryan and Son, which was a farm feed and supply company, they opened a warehouse in Gaithersburg. They were a company that was established in 1867 in Alexandria. It was established by John Carlisle, Herbert Bryant Sr. He was a Confederate captain in the Civil War. He was known as Captain for the rest of his life. And in 1914, the company, or he signed a lease. His son, who was Herbert H. Bryant, signed a lease with Jesse Burns to lease land for $60 a year and for 5 years with the option to buy. The mill was established by 1932. 2 years later, we had a property conveyance. One of the owners conveyed it to the company. Another piece of land, if you can look on the aerial here, there's a few odd shaped parcels here. So it was two parcels that were eventually joined together, so that explains the conveyance in the 30s. Again, with our Bowman Mill, there were a number of fires there. There were fires on this property as well, one in 1942. We have a newspaper clipping that I'll show you shortly on that. They had branches by 1960 in a number of communities in Virginia, but, and this is a quote from a Southern Railways publication that said that a large branch warehouse is also located in Gaithersburg at the site of the company's feed and manufacturing mill. So I think this was an important location for the company. There was a fire at the Alexandria location. I haven't found an exact connection, but I think that kind of led to the company's demise, or at least the Gaithersburg location, because by the mid-60s we have Aubrey G. Williams, who opened Williams Feed and Supply Company, a similar kind of business in that location. He previously worked at the Bowman Mill, so he was familiar with Gaithersburg. Milling continued until 1970, but they still sold feed out of that location to government installations, and the Washington Zoo got its feed supply from this location. The property was in Montgomery County until 1979 when it was annexed into the city. Aubrey Williams retired the next year, and then the Planning Commission approved the additions to the property when it became the self-storage in the early 2000s. So here's, this is a Sanborn map from 1930. You can see the main building here is a different form than what we see today because it was essentially rebuilt after the 1942 fire. So still the same location. Here is a newspaper clipping about the fire, which destroyed the building. Loss was estimated at $75,000 to $100,000. And this is a Sanborn map from 1949 after it was rebuilt. And note that it did have the silos, which we saw on the other mill building, which are no longer present on this building as well. So there was also, let's see, finished products warehouse, another finished product, couple warehouses here. I believe CIN stands for cinder block, so that is the current form of the building today. So we know that that was reconstructed after the 42 fire. Here's an ad to show the kind of products that they sold: seeds, grain, and coal. Note the phone number, just 3 digits. Here's another ad for chick starter for farmers with chickens. By this time, they had 2 phone numbers, 151 or 444. And then this was on sale on eBay, and a feed bag. Note that it says Washington Grove because, again, it wasn't in the Gaithersburg city limits, so Washington Grove claimed them at that time. So this is the only older photo we have of the property, and it dates to 1972. Hopefully we can find, or I can find more as I do more research, but I'll read the caption. Located between the railroad tracks and East Diamond Avenue, Herbert Bryant built this large concrete structure in 1945 after a fire destroyed the original mill. It was purchased by Aubrey Williams in the 1960s. The mill dealt in poultry and livestock feed, grain, and fertilizer. So many of the town's mills sold fertilizer that Gaithersburg was known as the center for the sale of fertilizer in the 1930s. The building is still standing, as used as a storage business. So if I were to zoom in here, but the quality's not great, it says Williams Feed and Supply here. So it was during that tenure. And these photos are from 2000, 2001, before it was, the site was redeveloped. It had a number of commercial uses after the Williams Feed and Supply ended in 1980. This is the site plan. You can't see it too well, but here's the building here. A number of 1-story buildings were built along the perimeter here, and then a 2-story building was built right here, and these are the architectural plans. A lot of thought went into the design of the new buildings to emulate the design of the older building, and the record shows that from the time period. So they didn't want to overpower, didn't want to have a taller building, so 3-story main building, 1-story lower building, and then this is what they did to pretty minimal changes to the main building here, added some doors and removed canopies, but they kept the dormers, the towers. I don't know when the silos went away, definitely by 2000, but I can get an exact date on that, somewhere between 1972 and 2000. So just minor, minimal changes to the exterior. And then these are the new buildings that they constructed, the elevations, tried to keep them lower than the main building, and same materials, same kind of simple design, same kind of gable roof. So this is the criteria for designation that we looked at last time. And there's the historic and cultural significance, and the 4 criteria for that, and then the second, architectural and design significance that we're working for. And then I'll go back to the photo that we have from 1972 to show it, and the comparison, the similar view today. So pretty similar how it looked 51 years ago. Again, pretty simple building even when it was constructed. But yeah, any questions?
I just have a quick question. Is the cinder block just painted, or do they barge it and paint it?
It's from the elevations that had an indication that it was just painted.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. I like the look of the pre-paint. It just
Yeah.
looks very
yeah.
much like brick, even though
Mhm.
it's just cinder block. Well, I think it's neat. Don't see these every day.
I've read somewhere else that I have not been inside this building, but apparently the interior has a lot of large beams and it's virtually unchanged. I don't
Oh,
know
wow.
if that's,
Yeah,
that was from 2000 when it was proposed for redevelopment. Hopefully, when it went to the storage business, that has remained, but I've not been inside. But
Yeah, the drawing, the plan that said the cinder, it said the post would post. So I would imagine that they wouldn't want to take those down.
yeah, I mean, that'd be
Just
a lot of
for
work.
expense
Right,
sake.
right.
So that'd be neat. I'm sure they're huge.
I'm curious, on the drawing, it says self-storage. Was
It
it
is
used for that?
self-storage.
Was it self-storage? Or was it self-storage for all the farmers in this area to?
No, self-storage is a
Okay.
use it's had since 2000. So the past 22, 21 years, it's been a
Okay.
self-storage facility.
Like, self-storage, okay.
But yeah, for
Originally, it wasn't.
yeah, from, I mean, we'll say 1945 when the current building was constructed until at least 2000. It was, well, until 1980, it was Farm Feed Supply Company.
Okay.
I think it still stayed in that use
Okay.
for about the 20 years between 80 and 2000. Definitely a commercial use, and then it transitioned to self-storage in 2000.
Did they put
Okay.
an elevator in for the people who are
That's a
storing
good
things on the
question.
third story?
That I would not, I would
You gotta
guess
think there is,
so.
yeah.
You think there is?
There has to be.
Is there?
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think.
I would think it'd be hard getting stuff
Yeah,
out.
definitely.
Put the overrun over when those dormers are.
Yeah, maybe. Interesting, just curious.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful, all right. Just open forum, just jump in, your thoughts.
I mean, I think it's in contrast to the one we saw last month. I think individually, this doesn't have the same significance in the sense that it's, while the additions were done sensitively, it still changes the character substantially. I think I would have a harder time, and it's also further down the street, it's not part of the center of town.
Mhm.
I think I'd have a harder time individually looking to designate this, but I think if we're looking to potentially do a combination designation with multiple buildings, I think it would be, I think together, it actually adds to the significance of the buildings as a grouping.
So what you're saying is, standing alone, you won't designate or you won't recommend a destination, but as a group,
I think as a group,
Yeah,
it
okay.
just supports the, the importance, especially now that we know that Gaithersburg was the center of
yeah.
of mills in the
Fertilizer.
Is that just the area, or is that the world at that time?
Well,
Feed,
I
too, don't forget the feed.
Yeah.
actually, in that publication from 1960 from Southern Railway, it did mention that, the fertilizer was produced here and then it
Yeah.
was shipped off to
Yeah.
Alexandria and then
Yeah.
it went
Yeah.
internationally. So
Yeah.
theoretically, fertilizer produced in Gaithersburg could have spread throughout the world.
Yeah, I can see that because 25 years ago, I was in D.C. and moved to Silver Spring. When I came up to Shady Grove Metro, just driving along 355, a lot of farms. Even King Farm was the last farm that just sold over, developer tore everything apart and built all those homes and mixed-use commercial. So I can see large farms, animals. I can see this being a hub where people come and get. I live up in Hagerstein. It's a state farm, and people there's a store that supply animal feed. And when I had a dog, everybody just gravitate around at a certain time. It's like they socialize, they hang out. So I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, they used to joke that Gaithersburg had more cows than people.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I first moved here, I can remember being in that building. I'm pretty sure it was this building that had it was famous because it had a minor bird who would greet you when you walked in the door.
Okay,
Not necessarily with
nice.
polite terms.
Yeah.
It had some character.
Well, very nice, very nice. I have nothing to add other than I think the idea of the district sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
And to see these things go, I always say it's a shame because they're gone forever once they're gone. It's definitely has tremendous history to it. So I'd probably be for
Okay.
it. All right. Okay, anything else further? All right. No? All right. Next then is from staff. Chris, do you have any thoughts?
The only thing I would add is to, we had a nice ceremony on May 31st where the city received Outstanding Stewardship for a historic property award from the Maryland Historical Trust at the Crown Farm Corn Crib, and thanks to Chair Ventola, who was able to attend. And I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add about the event?
No, but it was a great building. And the mayor was thinking that it would be a great place to have some gatherings from time to time.
Absolutely,
It
yeah.
was perfect. It looked great for that.
And very close to 605 Steinbeck.
They can stop by or at least wave.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
All right. Frank?
I don't have anything necessarily to add, but I will say regarding, since the applicants for the fence were still here, and maybe for you all's interest as well, for one reason or another, for the last 2 years, I've been taking an LLM program on conflict resolution. And there's really one very good program through the University of Missouri, which is entirely online. There are a few that are partially online, but they make you spend a week, and that's not going to work for me, spending a week on site. In any event, in going through the program, I've got one more semester, but for a summary paper that I needed to do, my work is all focused on local government, and I'm one of the only local government practitioners involved. Most everybody else they may be involved in government in some way, but it's an agency or, dealing with conflict resolution in that regard. Well, I'm local government. And what I wanted to do was put together a project laying out how certain conflict resolution techniques that we've learned could help dealing with local government conflicts. I said, well, you can have conflicts with permit requests and planning and zoning. You've seen some. Our planning commission has seen some. I happen to be there. I see them going on. And so there was skepticism and said, well, how could you, give us an example of a very contentious example. Say, let's pick a fence. And so guess what? And not only was it a matter of saying, oh, this is what happened. If you want documentary evidence of what happened, for instance, the petition, and this is what's happened, and this is this, and it wasn't to say that there was any specific technique we could have used that necessarily would have changed it, but it is to say, look, local affairs, local government business is rife with conflict, so this is a relevant concept. So in that regard, it was very helpful and nice to see tonight. No comments at all, I'm sure, but in any event, it was useful even in the from the April 2022, which I remember well. And actually, at the same time, we had on a totally separate issue in another area a fence permit that actually ended up getting appealed to the Board of Appeals.
Wow.
And that was because somebody was upset more about flood control. So we were able to say, look, even with fences, you can have contention at the local level.
For
So
sure.
just to pass on that sometimes what we do here can make a difference in another way.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Very good.
Wonderful.
And I will finally point out that was not just the project paper that I ended up putting together was very widely regarded. It's actually I've put it into a PowerPoint. I'm making a presentation to the Clerks Association, and I'm doing, somewhat modified, and doing one for city staff in October. So the stuff will be relevant. I won't be talking about this. Actually, I may bring up the fence permit, but just in a certain way to show here's what happened, and here's how things can turn out.
All right.
So anyway.
Nice, wonderful, thank you for sharing that. All right, anything from the commissioners? Mark?
What is the saying, good fences make good neighbors?
You said gone fences do as well.
No, that's all.
That's very good. All right, Rudy?
Nothing, yeah.
John?
By me.
All right, and nothing for me either, so we are hereby adjourned.
All right.